Parsha Ki Savo begins with the mitzvah of Bikurim. So the mitzvah of Bikurim is divided into two parts. There's the Havoas Bikurim, bringing the first fruit, and there the Torah describes V'samta atene biyodecha, has to be placed in a basket. The Mishnah in Bikurim tells us that the poorer element, the lower elements who didn't have much money, so they had a wicker basket, a basket made out of palm leaves. The wealthier ones had a fancier basket, and the very wealthy ones had baskets that were made out of silver and gold. You know, it's a little like Shalach Monas. So the Bikurim were placed in the basket and given to the Kohen lifts it, the farmer lifts it with the Kohen, and that's the mitzvah of Bikurim. The second part is Koreh. There's a parsha to be recited. So the Gemara says there are those that are Mevi v'Koreh, those who bring Bikurim and read the parsha, and there are those that are Mevi v'Eino Koreh. They don't read the parsha for various reasons. A ger doesn't read it because he cannot say it, so Adoma Asher Lasato Lavoseinu. There are other exceptions of people that don't read the parsha. But the Avos Bikurim is not dependent on the reading of the parsha. So the reading of the parsha is, so to speak, a separate entity. Now, this parsha, we read it every year on the Seder night. It's part of the Haggadah. The Baal Haggadah took the parsha and he incorporated in it the drashot that Chazal imposed upon the parsha, and that becomes a central point in the Haggadah. So what is the importance of this parsha? What is the story here? So basically the story is all Jewish history. What happened to us before? Arami Oved Ovi. So difference of opinion whether the Ovi here is Avraham or Yaakov. Vayered Mitzrayim, we had to go down to Egypt. Vayanunu, and they afflicted us. Vayitnu aleinu avoda kosher. We had all sorts of slave labor to accomplish there. And then Vayotzeinu Hashem Elokeinu, Rebbeinu Shalom took us out. And now, Ata Hine Yevesi, now I can bring the Bikurim here to the Kohen and the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore I acknowledge all of this and I thank the Rebbeinu Shalom for it. And that's the thrust of the parsha. So there's a deep lesson here in the parsha and in the fact that the parsha is recited. Because who's the one that recites it is the farmer, the person whose labor brought about the crop. Now, there's no more difficult occupation in the world than to be a farmer. Because it's difficult manual labor. Today it's easier because of mechanical help, but it's still manual labor, and you're dependent on all sorts of things that you have no control over. Rain, wind, insects, fire, all sorts of things. And, there was a biography of John Maynard Keynes, the great economist, the leftist economist who ruined all markets in the world with his theories. So he wrote an autobiography, a very interesting autobiography. I read it a long time ago. And he was born on a farm in Canada, in Manitoba, in middle Canada. And he went to, in the Canada and in the United States, there were colleges that were called A&M, agricultural and mining, that they, so to speak, specialized in farming and in digging out minerals from the earth. So he said it was an interesting thing. He said the student body in all the A&M colleges were people whose parents were not farmers. Anybody who grew up on a farm didn't want to go to an A&M college and didn't want to be a farmer because of the difficulties involved. So he said it was always the rarefied city people who saw romance in farming that went ahead and they went to these schools and they participated in those courses. Be that as it may, this farmer, he invested everything into bringing these bikurim, right? We can imagine the months of labor and of worry and of intense struggle that were involved in order to get this basket full of crops. So he would be understood, perhaps even forgiven for saying, look at what I accomplished. We started with nothing, and now, we have a bountiful crop. We have all these beautiful fruits, everything, and, so I should get credit. So the Torah teaches us here an important lesson, that the world does not begin with me and does not end with me. And that the person shouldn't think that he's the one, but that there's a long history here. The history begins Arami Ovedovi. We didn't just come to bring crops now because of my effort. And there's a continuity. And without understanding that, then people miss the whole point. That's the whole narcissistic attitude that exists in much of society today, that it's me and I did it, and what happened before doesn't count. There was no before. It's only me. And the Torah came to remind us that that is not the situation, and that I can bring bikurim because Arami Overovi, Vayer Mitzrayma, Vayogershom, the whole story. So I'm a link in the story, but I'm not the story. I'm part of it. Chazal tell us that when Shlomo Melech dedicated the Beis Hamikdash, so he wanted to open the doors for the dedication of the Mikdash, and the doors would not open. This is the basis of the words in Tehillim that we say, Siu Shorim Roshechem, V'nosu Pischayolam. Open the door. The door wouldn't open. And so you can imagine, here's Shlomo HaMelech, who is the wisest of all people, and at that time probably the holiest of all people. and who invested so much in building this building. And he says, "Samti l'cho mokom," I made a place for you, the Ribono Shalom, and you can put the Aron there, and everything is there, and there must be tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of Jews in the area, in the courtyard, to observe the dedication to the Beit HaMikdash, and they can't get the door open. So he was terribly embarrassed. He was ashamed. So he said, "Remember my father David. I don't come to appeal to you on my own behalf. Remember my father David. Al toshe pnei mishichecha. Don't turn me away. Remember, Zchor Chasdei David Avi," he says in Tanakh. Remember David HaMelech. The moment he says, remember David HaMelech, the moment he attaches himself to the past, so to speak, and it's no longer his own efforts and his own greatness, so then the doors open. So first it says, "Su shorim roshechem v'inosu pisei olam v'yovo melech hakovod." Mi'uzeh melech hakovod, Hashem Izuz v'gibor, Hashem gibor melchama. God doesn't need your Beis HaMikdash. So then he has to say it more humbly. "Su shorim roshechem usu pisei olam v'yovo melech hakovod, mi'uzeh melech hakovod, Hashem tzvakos melech hakovod tzelo." So we say, "Bavur David Avdecho al toshe pnei mishichecha." Because of David, so the doors will open for Shlomo. But if people think that the doors open only for themselves, their achievements, so then it doesn't quite work that way. And so that's the great moral lesson here in the Parsha of Bikurim. That even though we have expended our efforts and we have done everything that we could, and it is a great accomplishment, but the Jewish people are built on continuity. They're not built in, so whenever somebody tells me, something new, that's what the Chassam Sofer meant when he said, "Chodesh Osir Min HaTorah." He didn't mean that there's no innovations in Jewish life. What he meant is that if you think that it's new, that you're going to deal with it, it's all because of you, so then you're far away from Torah. Torah isn't built that way. And that's why in our tefillos we say, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov, whatever. 3,000 years ago, 3,700 years ago, whatever, But we are still in the continuity of that. We're built upon that. And that's what gives us a right to pray, so to speak. It gives us a right to approach God. But if we think that we're coming on our own and that we're the sole arbiters of our fate, and that we're so perfect and special and new, we have seen in our time how all of the new ideas have brought destruction to the world and continue to do so. And therefore, the Parsha of Bikurim, so a person has to remember that. And I think that that's why the Baal HaGoda incorporated that Parsha more than anything else in the story of Pesach, because that is the story of the Jewish people and of how we became the Am HaNivcha. Rabbi Chananya ben Akashi Omer, Otza HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'zakos es Yisrael, lefichach hirbo lahem Torah mitzvot shenemar, Aranoi chavhetz l'man tzidko yavdiu Torah v'yavir. תודה ותודה שמי רבה, על מה דיברתי כותב, איך כותב, הכל, כל ישראל בעגלה, בזמן תגיד, אמן.